Fairy tales, curses, and dragons. Those are the three words that I would use to describe Scalebound. This book was self-published by Logan Piercy in September of 2024, and I started reading this because I wanted something to cure my Onyx Storm hangover, and I figured more dragons might just do the trick. I actually bought this book pre-ordered, like pre-ordered, because I saw the edges it was being like marketed on social media, and I found the edges, I found the cover, and I was like, wow, this book is gorgeous. This is an indie author. It's her first real publication. Like, I want to support her. And so I did and purchased the book. So this is a young adult fantasy book that has tropes such as hidden royalty, enemies to lovers, found family, and a quest to save her kingdom. From a romance perspective, it does say enemies to lovers, but I would say there's a lot more lovering than enemying. Is that a word? You get what I'm saying. It is also a no spice book, Fade to Black. And this book follows Aurelia. She is a half human, half dragon, and in this world, this is called a Scaleborn. And Aurelia has been hidden away in a tower in the kingdom, presumed dead, except her dad, the king, knows that she's still alive. He's the one hiding her in the tower, and she's been there for 20 years. And he's hiding her due to the high price on her golden blood. But when a plague threatens her kingdom, she ends up getting out of her tower to go try to save that kingdom by going on a quest to find a magical dragon relic that allows her one wish to save her kingdom. And along the way, her magical blood gets her into trouble, and she leans on her dragons and fellow Scaleborns to get out of those messes. So this book is actually a dual POV, so you have Aurelia's point of view as well as Damon, who is the main male character's point of view. So it goes back and forth, although you spend most of the time in Aurelia's point of view. Now this book does have a magic system, and a lot of it is focused around dragons, but there's also an old magic system that her grandmother possesses. And I will say the second half of the book is really where we get a lot of that magical lore. It's very surface level in the first half, but the second half is where we dive a little bit deeper into the dragons, their elemental magic, and how their powers can be transferred to writers. Now, some of the things that I did like about this book. Dragons. The dragons were great. There's a pink dragon. Who doesn't want a pink dragon? I would want a pink dragon. There was also a big plot twist at the end that I did not see coming that was really, really good and added so much to this story. Honestly, it bumped it up an entire star for me when that happened. And it also has elements of found family, which I always enjoy. Now, there were quite a few things that I think some readers would be turned off by, or at least I found myself kind of being turned off by. And that's first that this is a female main character that's been locked in a tower and doesn't know how to exist in society, and she is extremely immature and naive. To the point that she just like straight up asks questions or asks for things that would likely get her killed, and she gets away with it. I would also say the beginning of this book has a lot of really unoriginal ideas. We have a fairy godmother type moment, Cinderella themed moment at the beginning. You have a lot of themes similar to Tangled or Rapunzel. There's also a forbidden forest, and you're just straight up taking that from Harry Potter. So in that first half, I hate to say it, but it almost read like a fanfic because there were so many elements that were extremely unoriginal. It wasn't just like taking tropes, but almost like word for word following along with something that we've seen before. However, about halfway through this book, it's almost like the author got confidence and started writing things out that were unique, that were part of this own magic system and world building. And that's when the book got much better. I would also say that this book is really not marketed to the right audience. So it's marketed as like Fourth Wing, Lightlark, and Powerless. And I have not read Powerless yet, but I can speak to Fourth Wing and Lightlark. Lightlark, while it is young adult, it is an upper young adult book in my opinion. There are a lot of heavier themes, a little bit more spicy content, especially at least in the second book of that series. And I would say that it's on the upper end of young adult, like 15, 16 plus for Lightlark. And Fourth Wing, which is another book that it's compared to in the marketing, is a new adult book. While there is politics in this book, it is not a heavy politic book. Fourth Wing in that entire series is. It's also a spicier book, and it has a lot more depth. I would say this book would be more ideal for a 13 to 15-year-old audience, like a younger young adult. And it just hasn't been marketed that way. And it was almost a little disappointing seeing how this was written, where there was a lot of tell instead of show moments, where an older reader would be expected to infer what that sideways glance meant or why his eyes were shooting daggers. Whereas in this book, it's like, he's looking at me that way because I just tried to steal that from him. And it's like, yeah, we know. But I felt like this book and the way it was written repeated a lot of information like that and really could have used another 2 or 3 rounds of editing or just an editor that was willing to give the author that feedback. And I hate to say that because I really wanted to love this book and I loved the second half, but not the whole thing. So who is this book actually for? I would say it's for younger readers in that 13 to 15-year-old phase that is getting into fantasy, that is looking for something in that romance fantasy area that is not going to be spicy, that is not going to cross that line any point in the series. The author is very adamant about that, and I think that is great to have series like that for young readers to get into the fantasy world without having to stumble upon graphic scenes that they aren't interested in or should not be reading at that age level. If you do like fairy tale fantasies and you're okay with the female main character being a little bit young, immature, and naive, but seeing growth throughout the book, you might enjoy this one, especially if you really like the fairy tale side of things. Also, if you do like dragons, there are a lot of dragons in this book. I gotta give her that. So overall, my rating for this book was 3 stars. It just wasn't my favorite. I don't think I was the target audience for this, even though the marketing was targeting me as the ideal audience for this. But I do think there's an age group that I would recommend this to. It's just a lot younger than what the marketing suggests.